did every single delivery. I even had a 50-litre drum of something. I can't remember, it was oil or something. Fucking, I don't even know how the hell I got that off, but I did. I think I had to find a man down the back. And every single garage I went to, none of them were open. Nobody had gone to work. And I did every single delivery down at Country Lake, waiting for saw jobs, right? And the other girl who'd gone up the A21, she didn't even get as far as Sevenoaks, and she got sent back because the motorway was shut. And I was just thinking that's fairly interesting. But who's to say that wasn't a huge, great conspiracy to get rid of all the ancient trees? Because we now know absolutely with the outside, they've scientifically proven that the trees speak to everything. So if you take those really, really ancient ones out, and look how they've been whipping in all these fucking foreign trees. Are you getting it? They've been bringing all the foreign foliage in. So we've got Japanese knotweed everywhere. It's not indigenous. Yeah? People wake up, they brought in, we've got Russian ferns and all the rest of it. And they keep replacing what is usable, like the silver birch, like the oak tree, like the sweet chestnut. All of these trees, you can use the sap, you can make teas out. I mean, they're all medicinal. Wakey, wakey, folks. And they're gradually, so they're not teaching us the name of the trees. And then not only that, they're replacing with Christmas trees and pine trees. And we want to see those everywhere. And and we're not questioning it. And today I went up the friggin' A21. Where was I going? Where was I? Oh, was I coming back? Went up the A21. And just up at the lights. If I'm going down Pembury right and the hospital left. So I'm going straight over towards Maidstone. And as I went along there, I looked up at the wood, and all the loads of trees have been taken out again, because I don't walk up there anymore, because Ruby tends to run off, and it's no point walking her in the wood if I don't let her off, so she has to go in fields now. But when I used to walk her up there, and each year they take down a vast amount. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know they grow back, but again, we're not allowing anything ancient to come up and heal us. That's where church is. The ancientest tree in your village. My aunt, my great aunt, who was like a granny to me, my lovely darling Aunt Eileen Kerr, she lived in a little village called Tilford in near Guildford in Surrey. I loved it, down by the Hog's Back. I used to go to Fensham Ponds, and I used to love it. Oh, I loved it. She used to let me go horse riding. She was just the most beautiful woman in the world. Adored her. And again, she died on my birthday. I'm never going to forget that. It was so sad for me. She was a Scorpio. I'm a Scorpio. It's very interesting how usually within the year of a death of a Scorpio, then there's a birth, or vice versa. It's quite interesting. And so many of us in my family born on the same day. There's lots of 1st of Novembers. There's lots of March of the 11th. It's very interesting, repetitive dates. Rubes, come in. And even weird things about people in my family who've died. Somebody died at sea off a ship. I can't remember whether it's Atlantic, wherever it was, and drowned, presumed missing. So did they jump? Were they pushed? I'm interested. But exactly 100 years later to the day, when I was doing more research, exactly another ancestor died on that stretch, whichever sea it was, off a ship, presumed dead. And I thought, this is a karmic memory. This is his ancestral karmic memory. Isn't it interesting, in families where there's suicide, it's often repeated a lot. One of the, my best friend at school, after I left Canterbury and we came here, I remember sitting watching, the local, when we had actual local news that meant something to you, because half the time you knew the people or what they were talking about. But we'd heard that, I'm not going to say names, but anyway, her mother had committed suicide. I came here when I was 14. So I was still probably 14 and a half, 15. So my poor friend had to suffer that. And worst of all, she found her. So, I mean, it was a really dreadful thing. And that's always stayed with her. And I know later on, she has felt like that muchly. And having to live with, my mother didn't love me enough to stay alive for me. But until you're grown up, you don't understand that her life in a marriage I'm not saying anything about this family. I'm not casting judgment. I'm not saying what went on, because nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors. That's why we have them. Yeah? That's why we need privacy. Yeah? We need privacy, but we also need to care for our neighbour. And if you see your neighbour with a black eye, The second time you see him, go and see a couple of chaps down the road and say, I think you need to pay this girl's boyfriend a visit because this ain't on. We're not having this. You can only fall into a table or bang your eye on the door so often. But also, girls, we've got to grow up and not provoke men. And every love song you will ever hear is always talking about fight, to keep this love alive. If you have to fight in a relationship, it ain't a relationship worth having. And this is what they've conned us into, that love's painful and love's hurtful and, can't trust him. And then you don't trust him. And then because he's got a phone and because everyone else is doing it, then you're checking his phone because you know what I mean? And of course, people aren't real behind texts, yeah? This is why they invented this camera. They want porno. They want you all sending dick pics and flangy pictures and all this crap. Don't succumb to it. Ladies, why do you think they call them vibrators? It's so obvious, because they vibrate you out of your spiritual frequency. That is why it's a very quick pleasure. It's not long lasting, and it's completely unsatisfying, actually, if you're going to be honest. It might get you there quick, but actually, is it satisfying without another person there? Yeah? And I'm not saying not be sensual with yourself. Massage yourself, treat yourself, have lovely baths, brush your hair for hours. These are all sensual, lovely things, but you don't have to have a wank with a vibrator and it's got a rabbit. Wake up. Wake up. This is deliberate. The act of lovemaking is to create a baby. And that's where we got it all wrong. And if you all knew what your clocks were and you were in time with Mayan time and really knew your rhythms, you'd know exactly when you were fertile, and then you just wouldn't make love when you're fertile if you just want to have a bit of a fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not some sort of prude saying to you, we've got to do sex, missionary and blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying any of that. But we know what's right physically and what's not. An anus is for shitting. Don't care if you're male or female. That's what it's for. The muscles are built for it to come out, nothing to go in. And you end up with a loose arse and wearing a nappy. That's the sad truth of that. I don't tell you that, do they, in the sex films? Why do you think porno stars only last a little while? Yeah? Because they had prolapses and crap and they got... Why? Think about it. They don't last very long. It's really... it's just despicable. And prostitution is the oldest profession, apparently. And let's face it, if a man is married to a wife and she's crippled and he can't have sex and she doesn't want to, I don't think it's awful that he goes to some very lovely prostitute who's clean, who takes care of him and maybe gives him some love and affection that he can't get because of the situation he's in. Is that wicked? Is that wicked or serving a need? And if he's getting that need met, he's then not perpetrating something on his unmovable wife's body. Are you seeing what I'm saying? Isn't that kinder to everybody? So he's kept happy. So now he doesn't have to be beastly or go and get it or have an affair with his neighbour's wife or the next door neighbour. He can just honestly go to a clean prostitute and get love and comfort, but no kissing. And again, what's this all to do with the mouth, how personal this is, It's very interesting. And so we make prostitutes look like tarts. I met a lot of prostitutes when I was in Sheffield, where I had my studio. We were like... in a very industrial area. So where my studio was, literally the park that I used to walk the dogs, because the nearest one was literally 2 minutes up the road, and I'm not going to walk another mile to go to another park over there when they just need a wee. And it's a nice park because not many people go there. I think it's called Stanley Park or whatever it's called. Anyway, when you walk up there's a little alleyway and then there's a little cut through. I'm telling you now, you'll probably come across maybe 4 or 5 guys having sex with prostitutes in those bush in front of you. It's very blatant. And it's so sordid, and then they leave their used johnnies on the paved pathway, and other people walk up there because it's between... And then again, this is now why probably the people from that housing estate don't go and mingle over there, because they don't want to walk down that dirty path. Well, put them in a nice place with a shower. Do you know what I mean? So you can relax and actually, not do it in a sordid, guilty, shameful manner. That's even worse. And blokes waking up with wood in the morning. Sometimes they just want a bit and it's sort of a fondly, sort of half asleep, nice thing in the morning. Yeah? Nothing wrong with that. But wake up to what's really going on. And we're not using our pheromones because we cover up all our own pheromone smell with all these damn chemicals. So you're attracted to the wrong people. Look, if there's a scent you like and someone's wearing it, you will like that person because you like that scent. Are you getting it? And then isn't it interesting what these scents call? Things like poison, number 5. Awful names. Some of the names of them are just beyond the pale. But really, girls, why don't you make your own scent? Why don't you go and find some lovely, really good, and I'm talking about really good essential oils, and take a smell and do it with big gaps and go and get fresh air in the middle, because after you smell a couple of them, you can't smell anything. And then why don't you get a little base oil and then put 1 or 2 drops of your favourite things in there, and then you've got a signature perfume. That's beautiful, because then when everyone walks past, they'll go, oh, there's Jemima, because they'll smell her coming before she's there, because they can smell her own, something that she's made for herself. Men, there's some amazing musks out there. Not musk is horrible. Frankincense, myrrh. There's some really lovely male tones. Why don't you make your own aftershave and your lovely smell? And again, if you like a woman, if you like your wife, if you're with a girlfriend, by now, if you've been with her a while, you should know the sort of smell she likes. You know she really likes lilies or roses or daffodils or whatever it is. So try and get those themes in that smell and make a lovely smell for her. How romantic is that, instead of bunging on some really expensive brute that stinks to high heaven? Oh my God. And nowadays, and you'll know who I'm talking about if you ever watch this, but if a guy leans into me and he's got aftershave on or too much, I want him to move away from me straight away, because it's invaded my space. I don't like it. And when they lean in, that smell stays on my collar. It's the same as I can't stand, because I don't use any chemicals. When I walk past people in the street, I can literally tell you what brand of washing powder they use. And it makes me, I'm like, ugh, can't bear the smell. I wouldn't have smelly washing anything near any of my stuff. And then interesting, it doesn't smell. And I don't wash my clothes, I don't wear them once and throw them on the floor and then wash them. How many times, work out how many times you use your washing machine. In the old days, you went down the laundrette once a week, and that's where you usually met lots of lovely people, your neighbours and a boyfriend and stuff. Yeah, because you were all in there together, and one of you would yawn and then everyone would yawn, or someone would tell a joke and then you'd all ease off and then you'd have a laugh together, and then you'd happen to go in there on Fridays at 7 o'clock. That's where we used to meet people. People are now having to meet each other in a supermarket full of chemical smells, full of all their shit, full of all that fucking, hyper-produced. You want to go and meet someone who you might relate to, go to an organic vegetable shop. You'll meet lots of lovely people. And people who are already where you are in the game. And talking of game, go and get wild venison. Go and meet your local venison man. And share that with your friends and make some lovely stew. And show them what meat they're missing. Show them that I only put some onions and some salt in that, and I didn't put any herbs. I didn't do anything, because it tastes amazing. And I didn't have to cover it with fake gravy and Marmite to make it taste of something. You've lost your taste buds. This is what COVID is. You've either got COVID and you're still sheeple, COVID, or you've got the coronavirus. Yeah, you're getting the approval. You're wearing the halo because you're realising, I'm going to stop speaking evil, seeing evil and hearing evil. I'm just going to be nice and plant seeds out there. And don't try to change anyone's opinion. When you next see them, you say, good morning, what a beautiful day. Like we used to talk to people as we pass them in the street. You're never rude enough to walk past somebody and then look at the ground without acknowledging them. I mean, it's bloody rude. Yeah? How about when you get on the train next time, say good morning to everyone and sit down and say what a lovely day it is today. And people will look at you like, oh my God, they spoke to me. Oh my God, must be something weird. And then you'll hear the announcement, somebody left a briefcase on the station. Mind the gap, mind the gap. Control, mind the gap, keep away from each other. Be frightened. Either be completely snugged up, your oars all intermingling like in lifts and in rush hour train. Don't you feel like you've been to hell and back when you come back from that? And that's the only time when I miss having a shower. I think, oh my God, I wish I had a shower. I just want to clean that filth off. And you come home and blow your nose and your hanky is full of black dust black. You've mingled with God knows how many people and picked up all their shit, all their negative thoughts. That's why I think this stay at home is a really good idea. Stay at home and only invite people around that you really know. Go around and actually visit the people that you really like because they're local. Ruby, let yourself out. What's the matter? Come on then. I've got to go because of my silly dogs. So I'm just blathering on. I think it's better out than all. And I think we should all be blathering on because I think we've all got interesting things to say and can share them. And we're all part of a puzzle that's now really coming together. Like I listened to Jade earlier on and a word she said has triggered me off on this. But I'm talking from a whole different angle. Do you see what I mean? There's room for everything. This is the magnetic and positive meeting together, and we're sparking. Now we're using the charge in our battery. We're using our currency. Yeah, we're not using their metal currency over the counter. We're putting our currency together when we meet, and we're vibing off each other, giving each other power, giving each other energy. Yeah, we're copperheads. Because we're all from the MacDonald clan. That's where we're really from. Because we're the farmers, the gardeners. And we're planting the seeds. And it's literally, metaphorically, astrologically, physically, mentally, spiritually. Do you get it? Ethically. It's on every level. So next time you walk around the park, when you see someone grumpy coming up and they're reading their phone and they're ignoring their dog or they're ignoring their child, just whisper as you go past, have a lovely day. Don't even have to say it loud enough from their head, but you've given it to them. And I've noticed people who suddenly put their phone down or they suddenly start talking to their child. Give them the opportunity, remind them. It's a lovely world that we live in, and it could be as beautiful as you make it. That's the whole point. Make it the best it could possibly be. Get local. Let's get all the grannies that knit down our road one afternoon to come down the community centre. We'll go and pick them all up, make them a lovely cup of tea. They might have made some really lovely cakes that we can share. And bring all the kids in. Don't matter if they're 2, 5, 9, 11, 24, 58, because we're all kids. Bring us all in and let's learn how to crochet. Let's learn how to knit. And those people that love it will get the bug. But you're not going to get the bug until you know that's your bug. And then the next week we'll do some candle making or some soap making, and then you can give them some lovely presents. And so then guess what? Every Christmas you don't have to ragged your bloody card and spend an absolute fortune that you don't even have. If you've just bought ingredients through the year, and again, if you look at Marketplace, people go through these fads. I tried acrylic painting and I decided I didn't like those acrylics. So I'm actually going to give them away, because if I give them away, then the next thing I want is going to come to me free. Do you see what I mean? It's the magic roundabout. This is how it works. It goes round and round and round. If you're exchanging currency, energy, that's an exchange. There's no debtor. We're all just creditors, because the more you give, the more you get. See, it's a big joke on us. The yoke is on us. Humpty Dumpty sat on a fucking wall. The joke is us. It's all a big joke. The more you give, the more you get. The grass isn't greener on the other side, because wherever you are is where you are. And you are who you are. And that doesn't change till you change it. And then, once you've changed that point, it doesn't matter where you are. Because you carry your home and your love and your heart and your earth with you, because you know where you're connected to. I think my ears are becoming more and more like pixies every 5 minutes, or elves. And I'm really beginning to think, are we all the mystical creatures and we've forgotten? Is that really who we are? Are we the archers and the Sagittarians and the elves and the gnomes and all these witchy, horrible stories of being frightened of them? We've got to remember, where there's one, there's the opposite. So we know there are good giants. We know there are good aliens. We know there are good elves. We know there are good pixies. We know there are good fairies, because there are also bad ones. It's just which side of the wood do you want to be on? It's your choice. And start calling in all these elementals. They're all there to work for you. The blue bottles come from the maggots that eat the dead things, because we weren't supposed to bury. We were supposed to leave the dead out. And nature took care of them, and their bones went into the earth, and they were ate by the land that bore them. Yeah, that's the cycle of life. We are ash to ash, dust to dust, But again, they introduced this whole death thing because we weren't supposed to die, and we just forgot. And they're precluding by 20 miles, 30 miles, 40 miles. The signs, they're all orders. So we think in tens, and then we think, oh, I got to 20. Oh, God, next I'm going to be 30. And you get to 30 and think, oh, my God, I'm not married. I haven't had children. Oh, my God, I'm not a career woman. I haven't got it all. And then you get to 40. And then as soon as you get to 40, they go, oh, guess what? The 50 is the new 40. So you've got to get to the next 10 years to have a good time. And then you're thinking, when does this ever get there? And then they keep raising the thing of retiring. And then, of course, because you've been doing a grudgy old horrible shit job for fucking years anyway, and putting all your guts in it, and now you're not going to get a pension, and the NHS is there anyway, so and it's all been paid for by trust funds. That's a whole nother story, but just get it. You are sovereign and you are king and queen, and actually we should use takeaways all the time, because you should just order up what you want and just say, put it on my tab, please. Yeah, and they'll take it. So, you know, you could have a hamper from Harrods if you really wanted to. You know, spoil yourself. The more you spoil yourself, the more respect you have for yourself, the more respect everyone else will have for you. Don't take second best. Don't take things lying down. If you want the best, have the best. But also create it. Make it individual. Now, back in the day, do you remember the beautiful Granadas and Figaro, you know, all these cars? I'm trying to remember, you know, the first car I ever learnt to drive in was a little blue, a little blue Triumph. You know, and my favourite car was my little 100A, Datsun 100A. Oh my God, best car I ever had. Paid 50 quid for it. 50 quid! And I paid 50 quid to have it get it through its MOT, and it's MOT. That was it. So it was 150 quid. I'd done 6,000 miles on that, best car I ever had. Travelled, lived in it, had lovely music. It went really fast when I needed to. It really helped. It was, oh God, I loved that car. And then some arsehole smacked me in the side, wrote my car off, and I had to buy it back, and then it was never the same, and it went. But it had real character. And one of my boyfriend's Snugs years and years ago, I loved it, because every vehicle he ever got, he had to matte black it. We painted one maroon. I went up to pick up Gonzo, my friend's Poppy. And again, they never had their dog done. Gonzo from High Brooms. People, even now, if you're from this area, you know where I'm talking about. If you're from Sherwood or High Brooms or whatever, you have probably got a dog, if it's black and shaggy, that was related to Gonzo, because I'm telling you now, that dog impregnated everybody, or everybody's bitch, for miles and miles and miles around. And you can still see it now. I'll see dogs in the park, and I know Gonzo was its granddad. He's probably now great-granddad. But again, look at us breeding, and we decide what's attractive and what we're going to put together with dogs. And we all know, what do dogs do? They sniff each other's arses, and they either like each other or they don't, because they should be allowed to choose too. Yeah? A bull gets his pick, so why shouldn't a dog and a bitch get their pick? Yeah? Because if you allow nature to do its course, you know, maybe this is why all the bumblebees are a thing, because we're interfering too much, putting them in a square box. There should be in a round trunk. Actually, yes. There's a man down in Devon that makes them, and I can't remember. I think there's a Fibonacci sequence, or there's a certain depth in hole, and you literally just bung it in your tree, and natural swarm will find it, because that's their nature. And I think probably further along than that, you could put some sort of hole. And if you, right, so say it's me, and I've got 3 beehives out there, and I say take 1 jar of honey from each beehive, so I've got 3 jars. What if I left the rest of the honey for those bees? Yeah, and don't get me wrong, when people come around and have a cup of tea and they want sugar, they'll get a teaspoon of my lovely honey and taste how lovely it is, right? And then what's that supposed to do? I don't say to them, oh, do you want to buy some honey from me? I say to them, why don't you get a tree trunk and put a beehive in your garden, then you can have your own honey. Then you don't have to pay between £6.50 and £8, whatever, for a jar of honey, and it's raw, and it's from your garden. So it's eaten off the chestnuts in my garden, the apple tree in my garden, the magnolia, the plants that I have in my garden. So do you see what I mean? And locally around. So it's really in tune with my DNA, my resonance, my frequency. Bzzz, you know? And again, people buy this really expensive honey from Australia. You don't live in Australia. The honey that we should be eating is the honey that's near our doorstep. I'm really lucky, because literally my honey lady lives 2 roads down. She's, as the crow flies, she's probably, I wouldn't even say a quarter of a mile actually. She's probably just under that. She's probably a third of a mile away as the crow flies. So I don't actually know the trajectory of bees. That'd be really interesting. Like cats, what is their barrier? How far do they go? Because it's likely that her bees take nectar from my garden. So that honey is part of me and everyone else who eats that. Do you see what I mean? So again, this is giving the food of life back. And, why don't, if you want to make your own flour, you could grow some of your own grain or try a different grain. Chestnut flour. And there's loads of chestnuts. So next year, why don't a whole group of you go and get all those wind-blown down chestnuts? Oh my God, there's hundreds of thousands. Squirrels got plenty. They're plenty. And this is why I don't think we're having a winter, because the animals are getting too stuffed that they're not going into hibernation. And that's why we're not heating up. We're just not getting cold enough for our bodies. And this is why they're doing it to us. They're heating the world up so that we forget about seasons. So we just get into perpetual hamster wheel. Whereas we want to get into the permanent now. And what would the permanent now be? The permanent of now would be the 25th of July every year. And I'll leave that as some homework. Look up what the 25th of July is. And then you'll know. Because that would be the permanent day. December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Is it 6 months? Is it opposite or is it? I can't. Anyway, very interesting. Because that's everybody's birthday, everybody's breath day. We've been lied about, with the dates have all been swapped around. So if you're in the perpetual now, you're in the ever present. And so time is immaterial. You sit in the bath all day if you want. And then when you've got that, actually probably only a minute's gone past, because then you're on to the next sequence of the next thing that you're resonating to. And it's not like allowing things to be distraction, but see what comes up. If like the cat or the dog wants me to go out, if I go out, then I might say, oh, actually, I'm going to prune that. Even though I decided the day before that I was going to, because don't decide, it's in the now. Do what needs doing now. You need to do a bit of tidying up or do 15 minutes worth of tidying up. But then you go in the garden, you smell a lovely flower, so that you'll do 15 minutes of gardening. And then before you know it, you've actually done 8 hours housework in 15 minutes installment, enjoyed every single one of them and achieved tons. Because we let everything, we have to do it like that, or we have to do this, or we have to do one drawer. No, just do even one drawer a day. Just go round all your drawers. Do one cupboard a day. Clean it out and decide what do I need? What have I got extra? Have I got extra frying pans? Or shall I take them down the homeless so they can cook for dinner? You see what I'm saying? Yeah? Don't throw it in the bin. Somebody else could use it. Put it on FreeCycle or swap it with someone, like Swap Shop. I've got some pans that I don't want anymore. And then you could say, well, I'd like your pans, and actually I've got some clothes that I don't need, and it'll turn out she's exactly the right size and they all fit you perfectly. Do you see what I mean? Let's have an exchange of stuff and energy and have jumble sales. I'm really gabbling on. My dog's getting annoying because, why are you whinging so? She hates me talking. All right, love to everybody. If it doesn't matter, you can't mind it. And if you do mind, then it matters. But if it doesn't matter, then you don't mind. And so if you mind into matter, so create exactly what you want. Don't limit yourself. Don't say, oh, I'll only get a 2-bedroom if I want a 3-bedroom, or I won't get a garden, I'll only get a balcony. No. Whatever you want, write it down. Do a picture board of all the things that you really, is it a cottage or is it a cob cottage? Or actually, do you really want to live in a tent? Don't deceive yourself anymore. Do you really want to live in a van? Do you want a gypsy caravan? Do you want a yurt? What is it you really want? Because deep down you know. And choose what that is and then go towards that. Do you know what? This year, we could all sell our houses. Right? If hundreds of thousands of us all sold our houses, got the means of the thing that we wanted to live in, and then just went back and took back all the common land. Common land is owned by the people. Stick your cattle prod in the earth and generate your energy out. And let's say, so in New Zealand, it's like a 1/4 mile. So I don't know what that would be in a circle. That's your pegging. That's your plot. And everybody gets the same size plot. Yeah. And, and again, that's fine. You just build a few more bedrooms, but still you can feed a family. And then when your family grows, we give all lovely things from our garden, just like Anastasia says. And then they create their new garden. And the whole village help build the new couple. I don't want to say married because, again, what even is that? But what I'm saying, when two people have chosen to be together, you all chip in and you give them a kitten and you give them a dog and you give them a cow and you give them one of your goats and you give them a tree and you give them a branch. And this is creating their motherland, and they build their lodge. And the wood that they grow in their bit of land is the wood that their children are going to make their log cabin out of. Do you see what I mean? And then it probably only lasts 2 generations, because then, well, not if we're all immortal, but the whole point is maybe we're all just supposed to have 1 child each as a couple. Yeah? So there's enough people to go around, because everyone's all, once you're in that mode, everybody's perfect for everybody. You actually get choice. Do you know what I mean? You actually end up with the people that you really like. Yeah? Not because they look this way or that way, or what you should or you shouldn't. And really, if you're living in that situation, you've probably been in love with the love of your life since you were 3 years old, and, you know, you met over the garden fence, actually. You know. Because that's what I really think we're going to end up. We are going to marry our next door neighbour. Because he's the boy that we fell over with and, you know, kissed him across the gate, and then your dad shouted at him. You know, that's like real sweet sort of thing. And the Waltons saying goodnight to everybody, you know. And then when you newly got married, in the old days, what did you do? You lived with your mum and dad, didn't you, and your siblings for quite a long time, because you couldn't afford a house. But what a good thing. Because then if you did get pregnant and had a baby, your granny was in the house. This is why they said stay at home. We were already all there. We gave Dad a shed in the garden because he got fed up with all the women talking in the house. So he had his lovely bit in the garden and was out there with Granddad making the allotment and bringing in our vegetables in. And Mum and Big Sister, and then our auntie down the road would be round, and we would come round and we'd make embroidery, or we'd be knitting somebody's jumper and somebody was having a baby. So what did we do? You didn't go and buy them clothes and stupid dolls. You knitted them, you know, their first 6 months worth of clothes and some socks. And then that was passed back to another person's family because it was made with love in the first place. You're buying shit from Mothercare that 10,000 other fucking babies are wearing. And if you're buying it from that goddamn Celine Dion with all that new age shit on it and confuse you about your sexuality. And then we forgot that pink is for boys and blue is for girls. Mary wore blue in the Bible. Christ wore red. Wonder why that is. And they've confused us. And I'm telling you now, it is a real man that can carry off pink, and it's a real woman that can carry off a blue. You know that they're in their place. I love a man in a pink jumper who can carry it off, who really knows he's a man. Because you actually see his strength in his gentleness. And again, this is how we've been you know, isn't it interesting? All the colours of the chakra. So there's red, so red's for anger. And where do we make up? Down in the base chakra. It's all about the sexual energy, yeah? You have a row, you make up, you bang, you get pregnant, mishap. Do you see what I mean? This is when you do things when you're not thinking about them. Or present. So that's red. And then there's green for envy.